Hello viewers, welcome to today's Pokemon Practitioner Pokemon Tips. I am Paul Sir Ansumana, CEO Pokemon Practitioner Australia. In today's episode, we are going to discuss about key important rules in procurement. That is 1, category management and a buyer. So we are going to give their definitions and also their differences and the role they play. Now, who is a buyer? A buyer is somebody who is responsible for sourcing, negotiating, and purchasing of goods and services for their organization, while ensuring that quality and cost effectiveness is not compromised. Now, what is category management, or who is a category manager? Now, a category management is a strategic approach to sourcing and managing of groups related to goods and services. They are normally being categorized to optimize cost, value, and efficiency across the supply chain. Now, let us know the role of a buyer and that of a category manager. What is the role of a buyer? Now, the role of a buyer has to do with placing order based on demands plan. Based on the procurement plans, things they needed are being placed there, and then you can now make an order by sending out a request for quotation or a request for information or your request for proposal to vendors that are on your database. And then the second aspect as the role of a buyer has to do with manage the day-to-day supplier relationship and that of the transactional needs. Now, how do you maintain supplier relationship? Making sure that they do not overcost items. Making sure that they deliver these items on the right time, in the right place. And making sure that the items that have been procured, it actually goes with value for money. And thirdly, the role of a buyer has to do with ensuring timely delivery and order accuracy. Now, what do you mean by timely delivery? For every procurement processes, it goes with a lead time. For instance, someone will say, I want a box of marker tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So you have to make sure that the procurement processes work towards that. And so what is the role of a category manager? Now, a category manager develops sourcing strategies for specific categories. That is their role. And also, the category manager negotiates long-term contracts and supply arrangements or agreements. Now, this is normally done when it has to do with your framework agreement in your organization. And lastly, the sourcing manager analyzes market trends, the market faults, and also supplier relationship and performance. Now, for every procurement processes to follow, you have to make sure that supplier performances are being monitored. But do not forget, in certain organizations, they use these two roles as one for one procurement person, either a procurement officer or a senior procurement officer or a supply chain person. They bend these two roles. Now, but do not forget, when these two roles have been pushed together, it has a higher chances of many results that will come out. One, it has to come out with a burn rate. Now, requests are being placed, making sure that we get the items needed. And also, we have cost effectiveness. And so, if one person is responsible for those two roles, then it will lead to the organization either for you to overspend or underspend. And secondly, compliance risks. The reason why it does not feel good to have one person in working those two roles, because you are prone to compliance risks. Because you cannot able to follow, maybe you will be overwhelmed, and then you cannot be able to follow the right procurement processes. And there, fraud and corruption and other issues comes in. And thirdly, you will lose strategic focus. How do you lose strategic focus? Because you already have the procurement plan and you already have the date stated in that procurement plan when they needed these items. So at the end of the day, you being the single-handed person that's sending out quotation, request for quotation, or sending out informations pertaining to the items that are being requested as per the procurement plan, you will be overwhelmed in making sure that you follow them, the due procurement processes. And also, lack of market intelligence. Now, what does this mean? It means it makes you not to even go to the market, making sure that you do your due diligence, making sure that the cost that is being given are actually the real cost. So you being the only single person handling this true role as a category manager and that of a buyer, it's overwhelming. And also, the last but not the least, it has to do with the transactional supplier relationship. Also, this will make an issue between you and the suppliers, because at the end of the day, the suppliers in turn will say, oh, I've been sending out a lot of quotation, I've been replying to your quotation, but you're not supporting, you're not giving me, you're giving somebody else, because you are overwhelmed. So when somebody gives you a cost that is higher, instead of you to come to the table and renegotiate, you start to let them out and look after the lowest cost. But do not forget, when it comes to supply chain, it's not only the lowest cost, but the lowest, but what the appropriate cost. So it has to do with cost management, and also your supply relationship has to be what? Cordial. Thank you, and see you next week.